That's Jen Psaki, White House press secretary, briefing reporters in Washington right now on a couple of main topics. First, COVID and the spread of the Omicron variant across the country. The president set to make an address on that. She emphasized that what the president wants to tell people is the dramatic, life-saving difference right now between being vaccinated and not being vaccinated, and what the president's plans are for trying to increase the uptake of vaccines in this country. And then on the other side, this catastrophe that struck the presidency, which is the failure to win over Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, behind the president's big Build Back Better spending bill, almost $2 trillion of social spending. Manchin said no. That killed the bill for this year at least. And the White House responded with just a broadside against Manchin, essentially suggesting that he had not dealt in good faith. So let's bring in our congressional correspondent, Rachel Scott, who knows a lot more about all this than I do. Rachel, Senator Manchin, yeah, he's been suggesting, he's been playing kind of Hamlet the whole time, that he had issues with this legislation. But it was pretty clear that he was a long way from where the president was. Did the White House get taken down the garden path, or did they fool themselves that Manchin was a gettable vote on this? What's your read?
You're exactly right about that, Terry. Senator Joe Manchin has repeatedly expressed concerns publicly about this massive nearly $2 trillion social spending plan. And primarily, he has had concerns about the length of many of these programs. He's also had many concerns about inflation, about the debt, the impact that it would have, and the overall cost on the bill on the nation's economy. And so many of these concerns were not particularly surprising for the press that have been covering him, reporters like myself who have been staking outside of his office hours on end, day after day. And they haven't been particularly surprising to the White House either. But this is the firmest that Senator Joe Manchin has ever been when it comes to actually pulling the plug on supporting this all together. As far as this measure stands, as is this version of the bill, Senator Joe Manchin is a firm no, and that is the firmest that we have seen from him in terms of his opposition against this piece of legislation as it stands now, Terry.
And that is a big deal. As I said, I described it in extreme terms, but this is a presidency in trouble because Democrats split 50-50. They need every single vote. This is the president's main signature agenda item right now. Yes, he did pass an infrastructure bill, basically a plussed-up highway bill, but this was the transformational spending that the Democrats have wanted. They have the majority right now. They might not have it for very long. So can Manchin be brought back into the fold, or do you think this is dead for good?
Well, I talked to one aide close to Manchin earlier this morning, and they sort of described this as a warning shot. They said that Senator Manchin is sending a warning shot to the White House and Democratic leadership that he is serious about his concerns, that he cannot be moved, that he will not be pulled in all these sorts of directions. Senator Joe Manchin has been pretty honest that not only the White House staff, but also his Democratic colleagues have been trying to get him to cave on a number of things that he just simply is not willing to move the needle on. So aides that I have talked to have said, no, this may not mark the end of Build Back Better altogether. It might be for the version that we know it. Some Democrats have suggested maybe scaling back, pulling apart some of these key priorities and trying to pass these as standalone measures and see if Senator Joe Manchin will support that. He is supportive of some of these priorities, like universal pre-K, maybe even the child tax credit under a certain limit, maybe a certain income bracket, right? But modifications, bottom line, would have to be made. And so it seems like it's back to the drawing table when it comes to the president, when it comes to progressives and moderates. And remember, progressives are absolutely livid at this. The only reason why House progressives, many of them, got on board to push through the bipartisan infrastructure package is because the president gave them his word that he believed that he could get moderates in the Senate on board with this much larger social spending plan. And right now what we are seeing is the power of one senator. The margins are just razor thin. The president is trying to accomplish a massive legislative victory with the thinnest of margins in the Senate. He cannot afford to lose a single Democratic senator, and he clearly lost one this past weekend.
So, as you say, Rachel, Manchin's out the door on this bill, and maybe more in some ways, and the progressives are steamed at the president. And so what does this say about President Biden's presidency at this stage, about his ability to marshal his own party and get things done? I mean, you know, we like in Washington to predict doom a lot, but it does seem like Joe Biden is having trouble.
He absolutely is at this point. And this is not only just a legislative victory on the line, right? We're talking about Democratic policies that would be impacting millions of Americans when it comes to the child tax credit, something that the last payment was sent out on December 15th. That affects millions of families. You know, we're also talking about the president's reputation and what's at stake here. He campaigned on reaching across the aisle. He campaigned on working with Democrats and Republicans, uniting both of them to accomplish things, and ahead of a very critical midterm election in which we know Democrats are trying to hang on to both the Senate and the House. So politically situated, this is a very worst-case scenario at this point for Democrats who were hoping to push this this legislation by now. And right now, it is just not happening. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer promised that he'll bring it to the floor for a vote in the new year. But again, right now, as it stands, they would just be putting Senator Manchin on the record about it.
You never know what's going to happen. I remember when Obamacare was being debated, there was a crisis moment for that, and it kind of concentrated and focused the Democrats. They ended up passing it in the end. These things can go up and down. But just to wrap things up, Rachel, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki also spoke about the Omicron variant and the COVID-19 pandemic. She said, quote, "This is not a speech about locking up." So the president's speech, what are we expecting to see from the president when he addresses, you know, this very concerning situation the country is going through with the Omicron variant?
Yes, we are expecting to hear from the president in just about 24 hours here, and it will be sort of his first big comment since we have seen COVID cases spike across the country, very reminiscent of sort of what we were seeing early into the pandemic, early into March. And so at this point, Dr. Fauci says that we're not anticipating any new lockdowns, but we know that the president is going to have to detail his winter plan for attacking this virus. We know we are just ahead of one of the busiest travel days on Wednesday when Americans will be taking to the skies, heading home for the holidays, heading home for the winter vacation, spending time with loved ones, spending time with families. And everyone is going to want to know what the president's plan is to address and tackle this new variant that we are seeing sweeping across the nation. We've all been saying it, pretty much everyone at this point may know someone that has tested positive in just recent days because of how the Omicron variant is spreading across the nation, Terry.
And that is the grim fact of this Christmas season that the president is going to have to address. And Rachel, I hope you get some time with loved ones over the Christmas break. I'm heading to Michigan, but Rachel Scott, as always, thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks, Terry.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.